Mage Origins playthrough. Let's resume. So you will excuse me if I'm not very happy today. The fuckers at Twitch disabled their automatic recording capabilities on Saturday, and they didn't notice anyone, or give notice to anyone, I should say. So I lost my last cast. So today we'll be repeating what I already did, so yeah. What an exciting thing, isn't it? Really lovely thing.
Yes?
I would like to talk.
Well, here I am.
This vision of yours.
I knew this would come up sooner or later. I don't know how to explain, but I had a dream. In it, there was an impenetrable darkness. It was so dense, so real. And there was a noise, a terrible, ungodly noise. I stood on a peak and watched as the darkness consumed everything. And when the storm swallowed the last of the sun's light, I fell. And the darkness drew me in.
Yeah. I did this already. I don't think I'm going to get the exact same options, but whatever. You cannot do anything right sometimes. So it's just a dream? Why say it's a vision?
I have had dreams. This was different somehow. When I woke, I went to the Chantry's gardens, as I always do. But that day, the rose bush in the corner had flowered. Everyone knew that bush was dead. It was grey and twisted and gnarled, the ugliest thing you ever saw. But there it was, a single beautiful rose. It was as though the Maker stretched out his hand to say, even in the midst of this darkness, there is hope and beauty. Have faith.
And this made you want to help me?
In my dream, I fell. Or maybe I jumped. I'd do anything to stop the Blight. I know that we can do it. There are so many good things in the Maker's world. How can I sit by while the Blight devours everything?
The Blight's the Maker of punishment. Will you defy him?
I don't know. He made this world. He could destroy it. But there is so much worth saving. You're such a pessimist.
Yes, I am, and with good reason.
Yes?
Like the dark.
Well, here I am.
What was life like in the Chantry cloister?
Quiet. It was a life suited for contemplation. In the cloister, away from the fuss and the flurry of the cities, I found peace. And in that stillness, I could hear the Maker. But it was not perfect. Some of my Chantry fellows were condescending. That is the nature of religious folk, I suppose.
Yes, they tend to be self-righteous.
When I talked about my beliefs, that the Maker reveals himself in the beauty of his world, they treated me with disdain. They want to believe that he's gone, so that when he turns his gaze on them, it means they are special, chosen. He cannot possibly have love for all, the sick and the weary, the beggars and the fools.
What did you say to them?
What can I say to them? What they believe is what the Chantry says, and the Chantry is infallible, yes? Maybe I am wrong. But it is the Maker's place to decide if I am worthy, not men, not the Chantry. But there is work to be done, and I have talked enough for now.
Not really.
Yes?
You still have a lot to say.
Well, here I am.
What would someone like you be doing in a loitering Chantry?
what is meant by someone like me.
You don't seem like you belong in a cloister.
Did you think I was always a cloistered sister? The Chantry provides succor and safe harbor to all who seek it. I chose to stay and become affirmed.
And why were you seeking safe harbor?
The Chantry does not pride, and you should. I desired time apart from the world. I was a traveling minstrel in Orlais. Tales and songs were my life. I performed, and they rewarded me with applause and coin. And my skill in battle? Well, you pick up different skills when you travel, yes? Yes, of course. Let's move on.
There's more to Liliana than had ever been apparent at loitering. However, she spent much of her life as a bard in Orlais, a minstrel, assassin, and spy employed by the nobles of Val Royaux in their elaborate games of intrigue.
Yes?
I would like to attack.
Well, here I am.
You're a traveling minstrel. Do you have any tales to share?
Of course I do. I love stories far too much to keep them to myself. Everyone should be able to benefit from them, I think.
Tell me about the Darkspawn.
Chantry law says it is man's pride that created the Darkspawn. In ages past, the mages of the Tevinder Imperium ruled much of the world we know. In their pride, they thought magics invincible and imagined that they were greater than the Maker himself. So thinking, they invaded his golden city, planning to take it for themselves and depose their own creator. But they were impure and full of sin. And it is with the sin that they tainted the golden city, corrupting it forever. The Maker cursed them and cast them from his sight. Wherever they went, they spread the taint of their sin. Any land that was touched by the taint became blighted and would suffer no life. Instead, the Darkspawn arose to torment us and remind us of our hubris.
Know any stories from Orlais?
Of course, Orlesians enjoy telling stories. I shall tell you my favorite tale of Aveline, the Knight of Orlais.
Go ahead.
A long time ago, a girl child was born to a farmer. He had hoped for a son, not a daughter, and so he told his wife to abandon the child in the woods. Before the cold could claim her, the baby was found by a tribe of Dalish elves who took pity on the poor mewling thing and raised her as their own. Aveline, for that is what they called her, grew strong and quick and clever under the guidance of the elves. She learned to wield the sword as well as any man, could kill a deer with an arrow at 100 paces, and was as graceful on the back of a horse as she was on foot.
I saw that coming.
Many legends have familiar forms and themes. We enjoy them so because we know them. Aveline's Dalish guardians saw that she could easily best any Orlesian chevalier in battle, and wanted to show the cruel humans the child they had left to die. They bestowed upon her a fine horse and armor, and sent her to prove herself to her people in the grand tourney. Now in those days, no woman was allowed to take up arms, let alone compete in the grand tourney, but Aveline kept her helmet on and was not discovered.
Go on.
Aveline won many events and gained the approval of the adoring crowd. Eventually, she came face to face with the knight Kaleva in the grand melee. Aveline had already bested him in the joust, and Kaleva was determined not to lose a second time. Out of desperation to regain his honor, Kaleva tripped Aveline and tossed her to the ground, ripping off her helmet as he did so. Silence fell upon the arena as Aveline was revealed. Kaleva declared the previous competitions invalid. A woman had taken part, and this was not allowed. But the crowd cheered for Aveline. Kaleva was furious, for he had lost to a woman and was now being shamed. Blinded by his rage, he forced Aveline to her knees. "Know your place, woman," cried he, and slit her throat.
I was hoping for a happy ending.
The son of the king, Prince Freyan, was present. He recognized Avelin's skill and bravery and began to see the injustice done to the women in his land. When he was made king, he rewrote the laws of Olay so that women could also become chevalier. He honored Aveline and knighted her after her death. And to this day, any female who is knighted reveres Aveline the Brave, for she is the patron of all women chevalier.
Do you know any Ferrenoldin legends?
I know one, told to me by my mother a long time ago. It always chilled me to the bone. Maybe you have heard of Flavius?
I met a Flavius in the Kokari Wilds.
Are you sure? Was she the Flavius of legend? Flavius, the devourer of men? Flavius, mother of witches? Flavius, demon-touched, who dwells in the mists?
She didn't really introduce herself as such.
Ferelden mothers scare their daughters with talk of Flavius. They say that if you're bad, Flavius will spirit you away and bind you to her forever. They also say that Flavius mourns her lost beauty and will steal yours through your looking glass if she catches you.
Tell me our story.
Flavius' beauty was known throughout the land. She had hair like unto a moonless night, skin as pale as winter's first snow, and eyes as beautiful and perilous as the sea. When she came of age, she came to the attention of the Lord of Highever, Conobar, and he took her for his wife. Conobar soon learned that his young bride had the gift of magic. He kept this a secret, for he feared that she would be taken from him. Flavius stayed with Conobar for some years, and with his blessing, she practiced her art. And then one day, a young poet named Osen came to the castle. Flavius was captivated by Osen's voice, and he by her beauty, and they fell in love.
Oh, the plot thickens.
Flavius longed to be with her true love, and she and Osen fled from Conobar's lands, seeking refuge in the Kokari Wilds with the Chasing tribes. They lived there happily for many a year, till the day Flavius received news that Conobar was dying and longed to see her face one last time. Flavius' heart swelled with pity for the man who once was her husband, and begged Osen to return to Conobar's side with her. But when Flavius and Osen entered Highever, they were captured by Conobar's men, and Osen was slain in front of Flavius' eyes. Flavius was imprisoned in the highest tower of the castle, there to await Conobar's judgment on her. Distraught at the loss of her love, Flavius plotted revenge against her husband. She summoned a fey demon, intending for it to wreak vengeance on Conobar. But a spell went awry. The demon possessed Flavius. Turning her into an abomination, the halls of the castle ran red with blood as Flavius slaughtered Conobar and all his men. The last of Flavius' humanity melted away, and at dawn, she stole back to the wilds to plot and scheme for 100 years. They say she took to her side many Chasing men, and with their help, begat her daughter witches, who even now prowl the dark places of the Kokari Wilds.
There was another story I wanted to hear.
Which one?
Don't know anything out the Dalish.
I have heard a little about how the elves gained their freedom from the Tevinter Imperium. When Andraste began her exalted march against the Imperium, the elves joined her cause to fight their masters. The great elven leader, Shatan, born in captivity, rose up to lead his people. He foresaw a future where the elves were free. Shatan was killed when Andraste was betrayed, but the elves continued to fight, eventually breaking free of the Imperium. The elves claimed the Dales in the south and settled there in a land of their own.
That didn't last, fortunately.
The elves lived in the Dales for centuries. They resurrected the worship of the elven gods and would allow the building of no chantry. This angered the chantry, and the hostility between the two factions finally broke out in open war. The Chantry says the elves struck first, but I do not know whether to believe it. The Chantry declared a wholly exalted march against the elves, named for Andraste's similar march against Tevinter. During the exalted march of the Dales, the elven cities were sacked, and the elven state completely dissolved. Some of the elves bitterly accepted their fates and surrendered to human rule, living in the human cities as second-class citizens. But others, still fiercely proud of their heritage, refused to bow to the humans, and instead became homeless wanderers. They were the elves of the Dales, the Dalish.
What do you know of the false prophet?
Andraste was the Maker's chosen. The Maker had long since abandoned the world when the sound of her singing turned his ear. Beauty, grace, and wisdom enraptured him, and he offered to take her from this flawed world to become his divine bride. But Andraste had an earthly husband and would not forsake him. Instead, she beseeched the Maker to return to his people once more. So earnest was her plea that the Maker was moved and promised that he would create a paradise on earth if all abandoned their false gods and turned once more to him. And this is why Andraste began her exalted march on the idolaters of the Tevinter Imperium. The Maker granted her his powers with which to smite her enemies. Andraste brought the Imperium to its knees, and her victories converted many to the worship of the Maker.
So how did she die?
Alas, it was the frailties of men that betrayed and killed Andraste. Her earthly husband, Maferath, a chieftain of the Alamari tribes himself, grew jealous as his wife's popularity and influence overshadowed his own. She was also revered as the Maker's betrothed, and Maferath began to see their own bond waning in significance as Andraste became ever more devoted to the Maker. Out of envy and spite, Maferath made a pact with the Archon Hysarian of Tevinter, allowing his beloved Andraste to be ambushed and captured. Andraste was burned at the stake in Minrathous, the capital of Tevinter.
But it has a chantry, does it?
The Tevinter Chantry claims that in Andraste's last moments, Hysarian's heart softened, and he heard the voice of the Maker telling him to end her suffering. He plunged his sword into her heart, and as her blood washed over his hands, he became one of the faithful. Dissenters said that the Archon only converted because he could not stem the tide of Andraste's cult, and was forced to do so to stay in power. We will never know for sure.
As we will. It's the likeliest scenario. Let's move on.
Yes?
She approves, okay.
Well, here I am. Of course I do. I love stories far too much to keep them to my... Which one? It will come to you soon, I'm sure.
Never mind. I talked to Sten, I had forgotten. It's always fun.
Why are we stopping?
We're working together. I think I should get to know you.
There are darkspawn to be fought. Is this delay needful?
I need to know if I can trust you at my back.
I am Kunari. I have given my word to aid you. We are not people of idle promises.
I've never seen a Kunari before. Tell me about your people.
No.
No, why not?
People are not simple. They cannot be summarized for easy reference in the manner of... The elves are a lithe, pointy-eared people who excel at poverty.
But they are. You said you were in the army.
I am.
Have you ever fought in a war?
I have always fought in war, human.
So you must know your way around the battlefield, then.
Some of them. They aren't all alike.
Are you always this bad about answering questions?
Generally. I do not see how this matters. Seheron and Parvolan are distant. Ferelden and the Darkspawn are immediate.
What's your hurry?
What a strange language you speak. You say hurry where I would say duty.
It is not your duty to handle the blight, though.
No, it is yours, and you are chatting with me instead.
Okay, we should get going.
As you wish.
But first, let's talk.
Yes.
A question.
I am hardly surprised.
Why did you come to Ferelden?
To answer a question.
What was the question?
The Arishok asked what is the Blight. By his curiosity, I am now here.
What's an Arishak?
The one who commands the Antam, the body of the Kunari.
So he's your king?
Kunari have no kings.
What do you have, then?
Little patience for endless questions.
Did you find an answer to his question?
A portion of it.
What was the answer?
Were you not at Ostagar when the army was overwhelmed? That is your answer.
Why would the Kunari guard the Blight?
Why do you?
Well, because it could destroy the world.
Do you think the Kunari live on some other world, then?
Yeah. Then you have to report back, then?
Yes.
When are you going to do that?
Never. I cannot go home.
Why?
It doesn't matter now. Can we move on? We keep the Darkspawn waiting.
What were you doing in that cage?
Sitting, as you observed.
I observed you standing. Do you have to be so literal?
No, it's a choice, not a necessity.
Are you going to answer my question?
I did. Parshera, was there anything else?
Okay. A question.
I am hardly surprised.
Never mind.
Very well.
Wanted to say something.
Speak, then.
That's enough for now.
Then I suggest we move on.
Goodbye.
As you wish.
Okay. Then disapproves. Everyone disapproves. That didn't happen
What
last
do you wish of
time.
me?
I will ask you of something.
If you must.
How did you become a shapeshifter?
I was not born such. 'Tis a skill of Flemeth's, taught over many years in the wilds. The chastened have tales of we witches, saying that we assume the forms of creatures to watch them from hiding. When a child is alone and separate from his tribe, that is when we strike, dragging the young boy kicking and screaming to our lair to be devoured. A most amusing legend.
Your mother has been doing this for a long time, then.
Changing her form, certainly. Devouring lost children, I cannot say. She has not done it in my experience, though in truth my lifespan is but a fraction of her own. Why do you ask? Is there something specific you wish to know?
Can you change into other human forms as well?
The form of an animal is different from my own. One may study the creature, learn to move as it does, think as it does. In time, this allows one to become as it is. I gain nothing by studying another human. I already am the same as they are. I learn nothing. So the answer is no, my human form is the only one I possess.
It's a narrow point of view. Can anyone become a shapeshifter?
Anyone with sufficient will, but the act of transformation is a magical one. 'Tis a spell and thus requires a mage's talents. Indeed, you could learn the spells required if I cared to teach you.
I've never heard of magic like that before.
No? 'Tis not unheard of in the remote corners of the world. There are traditions of magic outside of the circle of Magi, despite what those mages would have you believe. Some of these traditions are old, indeed, passed down as carefully guarded lore from one generation to the next. The zealots of the chantry would uproot all such practitioners if they could, but as luck have it, some still exist. My mother is such a one.
That's good. Such tradition needs to be preserved.
I'm shocked that you think so, being a mage of the circle as you were. But perhaps you felt a little like a caged bird as well, caught within that dark tower.
Yes, very much so.
I thought so.
You spent a lot of time as an animal.
There were nights when the wilds called to me, 'tis true. You look upon the world around you and you think you know it well. I have smelled it as a wolf, listened as a cat, prowled shadows that you never dreamed existed. But my life is as a human. I am under no illusions to the contrary.
And what do other animals think of you when you have changed?
They do not shy away from me. To their senses, I believe I seem like any other of their species. As to what they think, I truly cannot say. Just as I am still human, no matter my form, they are still animals. Thus they cannot speak, even were I to ask.
Okay.
Indeed. Have you an opinion on my abilities, then? Am I an unnatural abomination to be put to the torch?
I think your abilities are quite useful.
Oh, you're simply full of surprises, little man, aren't you? But enough of such talk. Let us proceed, lest the dust gather on us. What do you wish of me?
I would like to ask you something.
If you must.
Can you teach others to become shapeshifters?
Possibly, if I had the desire to. I do not.
And why is that?
I was told to accompany you and to help you, and that I shall. This may extend to the teaching of my mother's skills in time. For now, I simply do not know you well enough. I promise nothing.
Okay.
What do you wish of me?
I'd like to ask you something.
If you must.
Did you grow up in the Kokari Wilds?
Why do you ask me such questions? I do not probe you for pointless information, do I?
You can probe me anytime you want.
Beg pardon then while I jump for joy. What is it you asked if I grew up in the wilds? A curious question. Where else would you picture me? For many years it was simply Flemeth and I. The wilds and its creatures were more real to me than Flemeth's tales of the world of man. In time I grew curious. I left the wilds to explore what lay beyond, never for long. Brief forays into a civilized wilderness.
And you remained unnoticed?
For the most part. Flemeth taught me well. For all that I had been taught, however, the truth of the civilized lands proved to be overwhelming. I was unfamiliar with so much. So confident and bold was I, yet there was much that Flemeth could never have prepared me for.